Welcome everyone to the Defender for Cloud in the Field. For all of you that are coming back to the show, thank you very much for our audience and for subscribing to the Microsoft Security channel. If this is your first time here, make sure to follow the AKA link below, which is the playlist of Defender for Cloud in the Field, so you can get notifications when new episodes are uploaded. Today we're going to do something different, and we are going to switch roles a little bit. So I have with me my great friend and my peer in my team, Miri Herszfang, that will join us to talk about Defender for Cloud. Miri, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here, Yuri.
Myself and Miri work in Defender for Cloud, the customer experience engineering team, and she came up with the great idea of talking about CNAPP, but she said, I should be interviewing you, I think. And I thought, oh, that's a cool idea. Let's try that. So I'm gonna hand over the mic to Miri. She is gonna ask some questions, and we're just gonna have a conversation about CNAPP. Miri, it's all yours.
So hi everyone, it's great to be here, and Yuri, thanks for inviting me. And yes, I had the idea that I want to interview Yuri because Yuri, he is our greatest expert when we talk about CNAPP. And the first question I have is, we always say CNAPP, but Yuri, I wanted to ask you if you can start with a basic explanation, like the first time when I hear the word CNAPP, what does it mean?
Well, so CNAPP is a coin term created by Gartner, and the idea of creating CNAPP was really to overcome some of the challenges of having different tools doing different things that were beneficial for cloud security, but they were not connected. They were working silos. So if you think about historically, we had cloud security posture management, cloud workload protection platform, and all those things working a little bit in different silos. We have DevSecOps, we had external attack surface management, so many great platforms that were doing specific things that were very good. Intentionally, it was important to have those tools, but as we evolve and we start adopting multiple cloud providers, it's important to bring all together. So how can I remove all the silos? How can I share insight across all these different pillars and start to make smarter decisions based on a more contextual approach of insights that are coming from those different pillars? So CNAPP is an answer for that. It's the capability to be able to scan different artifacts such as the code and containers and different posture management capabilities, bring all that into consideration and then tell you, hey, across all your workloads, these are the most important things that you need to prioritize right now. So that's, a short explanation about why CNAPP came to play and what really is.
Thank you very much. So can I ask you like a follow-up question? You said contextual. So can you give us example? So I understand the high level and the challenge that you have separate system, but can you give me an example of what does it mean to have a contextual insights?
Absolutely. So again, going back, we gotta revisit history here, and one of the historical data points is that customers, they were really asking for more contextual approach, because the thing is, with traditional CSPM, we had basically a benchmark that was looking at the workloads and telling customers, hey, there are a lot of things here that you need to do to improve your secure posture. So for example, they were scanning, assessing the entire environment and giving you a list of, let's say, 100 recommendations to remediate. Now the question is, how do I prioritize? And natively in CSPM platforms, they had basically the high, medium, and low severity approach. The problem is that when you have 50 high-level security recommendations. Which one you should do first? Let's say you have 20 high-severity recommendations to address different storage accounts. How do you know which storage account is more important if this assessment is basically looking to one data point only? So there is no context. Is the same assessment running across different storage accounts, but not all storage accounts should be evaluated equally, because some storage accounts, they have data sensitivity in place. They have PII, they have credit card information. So those ones should be definitely addressed first. So without context, you will not going to be able to make smart decisions because you are not taking into consideration those risk factors. So when we say contextual, we are talking about looking in different dimensions, not only looking purely the fact that a storage account is exposed to the internet, but that storage account also has PII, that storage account also has a connectivity with a key vault, and on that key vault there is secrets, and guess what? Threat actors could move laterally across those workloads. So given different data points, so now I can look at different dimensions and I can make smart decisions.
That's great. So it's actually takes me directly to my next question. So let's say in my organization I have different products, posture and runtime to protect cloud workloads. Why still should I implement CNAPP? And it's directly connection to what you just started to describe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's exactly directly connection, because again, if you only look at things from this silo perspective, it's great that you have threat detection. It's great that you have runtime threat detection for the different workloads. But how do you approach the prioritization of the response? Because even from the incident response perspective, you gotta prioritize what is more important. So if you just receive a raw alert saying that there is a threat actor that is trying to do something, is in the beginning of the cyber Q chain, is still a brute force, for example, you may say, well, it's a brute force, nothing really happened, is a low severity type of alert because it's still within the reconnaissance phase, that actor really didn't do anything, so I'm going to prioritize something else. But if you have more insights about this brute force, such as, hey, this brute force is actually taking place against a storage account that has PII. So although it's a low priority because the attack didn't take place yet, you should actually do something, because if the threat actor is able to get into this storage accounts, they will be able to see confidential information, right? So now, again, the CNAPP incorporates those insights into the incident response lifecycle as well. So when we, for example, surface an alert, now we actually add the data classification as part of the alert because of our data aware secure posture, which is part of our CNAPP solution. So it adds value, it gives more information for incident responders to take action based on those risk factors.
So I agree with you completely, and I think we see that over and over in customers. One thing I also see that I want to add, and let me know what you think, but depends on your level of maturity when moving to the cloud. There is also big advantages of taking CNAPP, because if you have different systems, each different system requires you time to implement, time to connect to your overall SIEM systems, time to connect to wherever system you are using in order to handle ticket. So once you have a lot of different systems, there is also a cost to implement each one and to connect each one to your centralized place to get alerts or to get recommendations and to act upon. And if you are going directly to a CNAPP, one of the additional advantages, which is one system. So the integrations, you should not do them for each system by yourself. And the ticketing and everything related, the reporting, So once you go with one platform, it also gives you ROI in this area. Do you agree with that? Do you see it
Absolutely.
also?
I love that you brought the ROI in this situation, because definitely that's a big thing. Implementing multiple platforms in silo increases the cost. That's the reality. Because now, yes, you can have the best threat vulnerability management available in the market. But if that vulnerability management doesn't really share insights with the other platforms, now you have this completely great tool that is isolated, and you cannot take decisions based on the insights of that tool. So what is really the point? Nowadays, we are really looking to that integration and share of intel across all platforms. So when you put this into one single place, you reduce the cost and you get way more ROI, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. And again, I see it with customers that we are working with. So now I'm going to go to the $1 million question. I want to implement CNAPP. It's, as we said, it's a platform. It's not one product. It takes a lot of different workloads and areas. It's posture, it's runtime. We are also talking about DevOps side. Where should I start? If I am an organization and I want to start to implement, how should I start and where should I start?
So this question is a very complex question, right? Where should I start? It will depend a lot on your level of maturity. And I'm going to use this show to also advertise our new ebook. As a matter of fact, your team, my team, and a lot of people were involved to create this ebook. You were a great reviewer for the ebook. You gave great insights. The idea is to help customers first to understand where they are in this journey of implementing CNAPP. You will be able to look at the maturity level and say, you know what, I'm actually right in the beginning. I don't have a lot of things, and I'm not automating a lot of responses and other things, so I need to move to a more optimal way to use CNAPP. The idea is to always start with protection. A lot of people and a lot of customers, they like to start with detection, but you should do the homework, because many data points, not only from Microsoft Defense Report, but many other surveys already shown that 98% or so, around that ballpark, of the attacks could be prevented with basic security hygiene. So you want to make sure that you are doing your security hygiene from the get-go. And security hygiene means identify your workloads, understand all the cloud providers that you are connected with, having everything in one single dashboard, and then elevate the secure portion of those workloads. That's the homework. Is basic security hygiene, is ensuring that you are prioritizing what is important to your environment. And then once you do that, you elevate your security posture, then you can start that journey to adopt the correct set of threat detections across your workloads. And last but not least, once you have all the threat detections across all your workloads, then you have to think about how you can rapidly respond to attacks, because the idea is always to reduce the gap between detection and a response. If you have good detection but you take too long to respond, you have a big gap that can be exploited by threat actors. So you have to reduce that gap. So how can I automate some of the responses? What can I do to expedite some playbooks to do things? How can I integrate this with my SIEM platforms and then take fast decisions? So that's really being very mature. And then once you close this loop, because it's definitely a loop, you're gonna keep going through this, because it's about continuous improvement. You're not gonna get this life cycle 100% right on the first interaction. You're gonna go through this interaction over and over again, refining your adoption and continue to leverage capabilities that will lead you to a optimal use of a CNAPP. Because there is a later on phase where you're going to be so proactive that you're going to be doing proactive threat hunting across your platform. And in Defender for Cloud, we have a great feature called Cloud Security Explorer that allows you to do this proactive threat hunting. So this is about continuous improvement and always reviewing this life cycle, always learning, because incidents will happen. If you think about even our zero trust approach, one of the pillars of zero trust is assume breach, which means understand that you may be compromised and you need to respond fast. So you're going to learn with incidents, incorporate those lessons learned into your protection, and then keep moving forward. So that's the whole idea about where to start, where you go, and how you continue to improve. Have any other recommendation?
I think, one of the things that I think customers should first of all consider is security gaps. So again, when you talk about CNAPP, it's a platform that gives you in the exposure and also in the workloads different layer of security, if it's in the posture or in the runtime. And one optional way to take is, first of all, to go and see where are your security gaps. For example, maybe you don't do container security yet and you want to start there. Maybe your endpoint or server security is very strong, so you want to leave it aside. Maybe your data security. So one thing I would recommend to a customer is looking at the entire cloud security in the different areas we are protecting, in the DevOps side, in the posture, in the runtime, and in the workloads, and then see where he has the security gaps and start there. So this is one option. One more thing I would always suggest to customers to do in the first phase is to define goals, because as you said, when we talk about CNAPP, it's a very wide range of security aspects that we have. So you have, and as you said you can start with posture, then you can go to threat hunting, then response. But one thing I would recommend is, first of all, to define goals. So let's say for the first 3 months or 6 months, because there are a lot of things you can start to do. As you said, it's an ongoing process, ongoing learning, ongoing adding security layers, but start with your goal and with your most urgent things that you want to protect, and then take it from there. So these are the two things I would take. First of all, understand your security gaps and the things that you want to start within the cloud, but also put yourself goals on where you want to be in a few months. And then all the time, as you say, iterate, learn, and add more.
Love that you brought the KPIs. Yeah. Thanks for add those KPIs. Very important.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say if we continue from the KPIs and we want to continue for that, can you share with us how would you suggest a customer to, if he has different tools and he still wants to go with the CNAPP platform, what should he do or how we should plan that?
Well, the reality is, if customers, they already have a lot of tools that accomplish some of the pieces of CNAPP, but they work separately, they will have to start working on a decommission of some of these tools, because there is no reason why you're going to have multiple tools to do the same thing. When you are adopting a CNAPP, you want to reduce costs, so why are you going to pay for different tools, right? So again, going back to what you said about planning, and that's part of the planning, is identify which tools I already have that offer just a piece of this CNAPP. And maybe that tool is great on what it does, but again, it's a silo, it doesn't share insights. All right, so it's time to decommission. So let's plan the decommission of that tool. Let's save some money there and get more out of the integration of that capability into the CNAPP. Vulnerability management is a great example. A lot of companies, they adopt a vulnerability management strategy based on one single tool that is fully isolated from the entire CNAPP strategy. Again, it's good. It's probably the best in the market, but is isolated. It doesn't add value to the entire CNAPP strategy. It doesn't give you the insights that you need when crossing information with other platforms. So it's time to plan the decommission of that tool. But it's all about planning. You're not going to do this overnight. So that you have the right set of operations on top of that so that you can extract everything you need. And then once you have the whole thing working properly and the teams are well trained and they are comfortable with the tool, then you can start decommission the other one.
Great. So now let's continue to the next $1,000,000 question. So how can I choose a tool? We said that CNAPP is a very wide platform. There are lots of things there. Some of them I might be already doing, like you said, vulnerability assessment. But what is the best way to choose the tool that is right for me? And also, what are the different criteria I want to consider?
Yeah, of course. We are from Microsoft. We have our preference when it comes to CNAPP, but trying to be as agnostic as possible. Here are some important points. First, when you are choosing a CNAPP, go back to the architecture diagram of what CNAPP is according to Gartner, and then look at all the capabilities. And then compare with the vendor what those capabilities are covering, and if they are really incorporate into the platform natively. Because one thing that you may see is that some vendors, they say, well, we do have external attack surface management, but you have to pay an extra license for that. In Defender for Cloud, for example, you don't need Defender External Attack Surface Manager in order to obtain some of the insights from that tool into our attack path, for example. We collect this information and we show that natively on our attack path. So the question is how the vendors that you are comparing the capabilities, they are able to natively offer all those pieces that belongs to a CNAPP platform. And the keyword is natively, right? How that integration happens behind the scenes. That's one thing. The other thing is CNAPP is not only about cloud security, it's about multi-cloud security, and a little bit beyond that is about hybrid security as well. So does the CNAPP that you are selecting is able to also look at on-premises resources? That's very important. Most of the organizations, they still have on-premises resources, and they likely will keep some resources on-premise. So how can you have this centralized visualization of workloads that are distributed across different cloud providers as well as on-premise into a single dashboard? Extremely important. So that's another capability. Proactive hunting is a very advanced capability, but does your CNAPP platforms allows me to query all the insights that you were able to obtain through the scanning of artifacts. It allows me to query in an easy manner and identify potential areas that I need to improve. This is a very advanced capability, but it's important because that's where you aim to be, is doing proactive hunting, because all the basic security hygiene is done. So that's another thing. Last but not least goes to runtime. So when you think about runtime protection, you want to make sure that the threat detection was created with the threat landscape of that workload. For example, the threat landscape of a container is not the same threat landscape of a storage account, is not the same threat landscape of a VM. So they have different threat landscape, which means that the analytics and the variables that were used to create an alert needs to be tailored to that workload. Very important. You cannot use generic threat detection to protect different workloads. So these are some of the main considerations, I would say.
So I really like your consideration, and I also really like how you started. So looking at Gartner, so in the end, looking at Gartner and seeing all the capabilities, also looking at your, basically what you said, architecture, the different clouds, the on-prem. And I would say, if I understand what you say, look at them together and see the places in which you want to invest, and also connect them to one platform.
Yep.
So I have two last questions. First one is the area that we actually didn't really touch that much, but can you talk a little bit about the part of code to cloud in CNAPP? Because I think this is an area that we didn't talk a lot about.
Absolutely. So why Gartner even went there? Well, because the reality is that there's a lot of code that's been shipped that is already vulnerable from the get-go. There's a lot of secrets being flown around inside a code, and DevSecOps engineers are usually responsible for provisioning a lot of resources. The growth of infrastructure as a code is huge in the market, because customers they realize that in order to really be cloud native, you need to start shipping code directly to the cloud. You need to provision resources fast, but the developers, they were not trained, let's put this way, to have security in mind. And even though there is this new category of DevSecOps, the DevSecOps tools, they are disconnected from the cloud security tools. So again, another silo. So how can I bridge that gap between developers and cloud security administrators? And how can I give cloud security administrators visibility of the best practice that are not being used by DevSecOps engineers? That's the gap that I'm trying to bridge, is to get insights from the DevOps, bring it to cloud security administrators, so we now have everything in one single place, and I can educate my developers on best practice, and I also can avoid potential malpractice of pushing vulnerable code to the cloud by adding guardrails in the pipeline itself, so that DevSecOps are not pushing, for example, secrets into the code to the cloud, right? So that's a very important pillar that we've been investing a lot at Microsoft. When we recently at Ignite, we incorporate DevOps security as part of the Defender CSPM. What we basically did was, okay, you are going to get DevOps security capabilities as part of the Defender CSPM without adding additional cost. Because if you remember, when we went public preview, it was called Defender for DevOps, which initially was a plan on its own, and of course, as any plan, it would have a cost attached to it. But we said, you know what, this actually belongs to the core Defender CSPM capability, and we're gonna give it as part of the plan, and we're not gonna add any cost. That's our bet on how important it is to bridge that gap and to empower cloud administrators to work closely with DevSecOps engineers.
I totally agree, and I can also add that talking with cloud administrators, we see, as you said in the beginning, of adding context. So the fact that now we have the code from cloud and the visibility of our environment in the cloud, there is a lot of context there. So vulnerability is now not just another vulnerability, critical, high, it's also vulnerability that we know if it's already in runtime, or if it's container, if it's in the registry. So putting them together gives to the dev teams and also the cloud administrator a lot of context of everything being together. Yuri, we reached to the last question, which we cannot avoid. But can you? We cannot. I guess there is we cannot talk about security without it. But can you talk a little bit about the part of AI? On the future of AI as part of CNAPP platforms?
Yeah, this is of course, this is the topic of the moment, AI, and CNAPP will not shy away from that, because that's really what what CNAPP is going to navigate towards, is how can I leverage AI to make even more accurate decisions, and how can I leverage AI to help me to remediate things at scale. That's very important, because the challenge for many customers continue to be remediating at scale across
Yeah.
different cloud providers. Because if you think about, maybe an organization has a really good team that manages Azure, but that team is not so experienced in AWS or GCP, so they really don't know how to create scripts to automate things. How can I leverage AI to help me with those tasks? How can I leverage AI to give me more accurate visibility and help me to expedite things? So that's just the beginning of this journey with AI. Bake it into the CNAPP, because the opportunities are endless. If you think about, at some point we're gonna have the same approach to threat detection, response. So AI will be baked in the entire life cycle. But I love that we at Microsoft Defender for Cloud, we are starting this journey from the uh, protection, which means how can I use AI to help me with my secure hygiene? Because that's the place to start anyway. We need to help on that. So we are starting the journey from the secure hygiene perspective.
Great. So I think we covered all of the questions. It was great to be the interviewer, but I will let you finish.
Miri, thank you so much. This was a really long episode, actually, and but it passed by really fast. I hope that you that are watching enjoy. We really didn't put the time cap on the episode, so we just let it go. Thanks for sticking in and listening to the entire episode, and thank you, Miri, for coming up with the idea, elaborate the questions, and make yourself available to record. I appreciate your time.
It was great to be here, Yuri.
By the way, if you are watching this episode and you want to download the ebook, here's the AKA for the ebook. Make sure to download, read it, and I hope you enjoy. All right, everyone, this is a wrap for today's episode. Again, make sure to subscribe to our playlist, aka link below, and see you again next time.